months we did this thing where we used to start the podcast with what I would call the most important question. So I thought I'd bring it back. I've not used it in a while. Your song Buzz starts off with the lyrics, "I woke up at 33, watched the trailer for the new Christopher Nolan movie." So I thought I'd ask, have you seen Tenet? And if so, what did you think?
No, I haven't yet. No, man. I was like, I didn't even know movies were open yet. But then my friend was like, go to the cinema, watch it. I was like, are we allowed at the movies? But yeah, no, I haven't seen that yet. But he's told me it's good and I need to watch it at the movies. But I'm looking forward to it. The trailer doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what it's about. Yeah, I don't know. It looks cool though. He's not let me down yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing it.
What's your favourite Nolan?
Man, I definitely rated Dunkirk. I thought that was sick. Because it kind of just came out of... I think that was the movie that Buzz was about, actually. So that was good. And obviously the whole, Batman movies. I never liked superhero films, just apart from those. And obviously Joker, Heath Ledger's, character in that. And he's from Perth. He's a local boy. So, yeah, that kind of got me into it. And then I was like, oh, man, superhero films. And then nothing else has beat that. So... yeah, they're pretty good. And I always go back and watch that. Is it The Dark Knight Rises? Is that the one with the Joker?
Just The Dark Knight, I think, yeah.
He did Shutter Island as well, didn't he? Back to back with Inception.
Nah,
was it not him? Or was
I think that was Scorsese.
Ah, that was true. I was at Inception, then it was they both came out at the same time. It was DiCaprio playing a character who doesn't know he's that character, which is pretty cool. He didn't have to change much for the role, so it was good.
2 for 1.
Yeah. What about yourself? What kind of Nolan films are you into?
I don't know which one I'd go for. I feel like maybe it's a bit basic, but Inception. But then I guess when I was growing up, I remember when I was 15, Memento used to be my favourite film.
Oh man, Memento, of course, yeah.
It's pretty crazy, yeah.
Man, Guy Pearce in that is really trippy. That's a good movie. Yeah, I showed my girlfriend that the other day, and she usually hates sort of movies that are a bit more art house kind of stuff, even if Memento's art house, but she was like, what's going on? And then at the end, it was just whoa! And so we were like, all right, sweet. Now that movie kind of got her into it. So yeah, trying to get a couple more films in that direction. Richard Linklater, trying to get through to what was the Scanner Darkly one he did? That's a hard watch, but it's a sick movie.
Oh, it's trippy as fuck. Yeah, the one where it's all that kind of cartoon animated stuff.
Yeah, because I love how he's got Wake in Life, the Before series, Before Sunrise, and they're really good movies. And then did School of Rock. That's also his number one grossing film. You're just all right. But that is a banger of a movie too.
I always forget that was him. It's such a weird kind of outlier when you look at everything else he's done.
Yeah, what a brilliant career, and then School of Rock. Oh, I just stuffed my toe so hard.
Oh.
All right, that's good. I don't know, I got excited. I'm going to put it in the gap here. That was pain. Oh, all right, I'll be Quincy for the rest of this.
I was watching the music video for Buzz as well today when I was doing the research for this with the Valley of the Grown-Ups. Oh, man.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Dadnet. We sort of had these people who were maybe we shouldn't just keep it about dads because of all the sort of male connotation or whatever, and we needed some females in it too. And we were like, but Dadnet made so much more sense. So just be all these dads sent out, and then we kind of got scared. Or our manager at the time was like, "No, you got to change it to AdultNet," which kind of made it kind of this grim the adults are being sent away. I just thought it was way funny if it was just the dads got sent away. They're just useless. But yeah, it would have been better. But that video took John did it on about a $4,000 budget, so that's $4,000, which is about £2,000, and broke his £2,000 camera halfway through shooting it. It was on this tripod in the fields, and we just watched it in slow motion, just go, and he was just oh my god. And we felt so bad because he was just working for free pretty much after that. We're all right, maybe we'll give him some beers or something, but. They did well.
Oh, man.
Good man, John.
You would hope a $2,000 camera could last more than just falling over in a field.
Yeah, I know. But it was because he set the tripod up so high that it was all right, we're getting this long shot of the valley. And we were just walking away. But I think that he learned his lesson. He's always peg down your tripod if you've got a $4,000 camera on the end of it.
What does a good music video have to do for you? Because the videos you guys put out tend to be quite kind of separate entities in that way. They're going to do their own thing.
Yeah, there was a point where I don't know, almost did not like music videos because it's something that you're not really in control of. So, I suppose when you're sort of starting out, everyone always puts out a really bad music video or something. And so I think that's why we went with animation a lot, because you can kind of get away with a bit more without using $10,000 or whatever, or £20,000 and being all right, and doing all the special effects. Animation is already kind of cool. So that was a good way that I think we managed to do the music videos. And even now, using Ollie Jones for the claymation, it's so sick. It's such a cool style that, I mean, there's so much work that goes into it, but at least he can work day and night on that and not be like, oh, you got to go and do this film setup and we've got a whole camera crew and lighting crew, and then it turns out to be like, at the end of it, you don't like it. You're like, man. So I'm sort of in two minds about music videos. I'd much rather just have animation. And of course, because we're all fuck ugly as well, so no one wants to see our faces in any music videos. But yeah, I think the way to go is animation. That would it feels better. It's more to watch anyway. What about yourself? Do you like a good? I think the '90s killed it. Sorry, I'm like I just asked you a question and then stopped it. But the '90s, you know how like they just set the bar on like these mad music videos, like 9 Inch Nails, and I'd always watch Kerrang when I got home from school, like in England, and so. When they're like, yeah, we're going to do this when you're driving in a car or whatever, you're just like, you can't beat the 90s. Or even just yeah.
Did you ever see the video for, what was that Blur video? Was it Coffee and TV with the milk carton kicking?
Yeah, that's sick. That was like a stop animation one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was just thinking that kind of reminds me of the same style as the one for Mr. Prism.
Oh, yeah, the claymation. Oh, yeah, the little donut kind of looking guys. Man, that was great, yeah. No, I think that video was brilliant. But they would have stupid amounts of budget for those videos. They're almost like little movies, weren't they?
Yeah, little short films.
Because now there's not really too many programs. Like if you've, there's Rage here in Australia, but I think that plays at like, it used to be every like Saturday morning. It might still be every Saturday morning, but it's usually now like 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. Like the primetime music video thing has just been redundant, and I don't know if anyone even watches music video apart from going on YouTube, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like MTV's kind of turned into reality TV, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So the idea of a music video is almost like this separate thing where you're just like, well, we've just made a song, and then you've got to try and back it up with another completely different like form of like creation, which you're not good at. And so you're like, okay, now you're a musician, but also now you're a film editor and a director, and like do this. Where at least like if you had we're making a movie, back to Christopher Nolan, I'm sure he doesn't score his own music. He's like, I've just made a movie. They're like, all right, now it needs a soundtrack. He's like, oh fuck.
So do you guys always come up with the ideas for the videos, or do you get other people involved as well to collaborate?
Yeah, we chat them through. It's usually just like a one sort of Skype call or a little phone call with whoever's directing it or making the music video. And I find it's way easier to let someone just run, be creative, and just say like, if you kind of, here's the main idea or the gist of it or where it's going to go, but like don't use that as too much constraint. Like just be yourself, and because it's so much more, I suppose, enjoyable for the person that we're working with to not feel like they're doing it as a task, if that makes sense. Like they've almost got to feel like it's their project and then come out. Because I remember doing design or like graphic design a few times for some clients, and the more you sort of had creative reign on a project, the more you just wouldn't even charge for hours or whatever, because you're just like, I feel like I'm enjoying doing this, rather than being like, we want like, I don't know, if it's so detailed, then it's too hard, because you're just like, all right, I've got no room to sort of maneuver. So yeah, like Ollie Jones, for instance, I think we would just like build a world where this character goes into a sweet land and then ends up eating everyone. And he was just like, all right, say no more. So yeah, and all the character development and designs, he just shoots through like a little drawing of what they're going to look like. And so but it's mad. You're just like, yeah, go with it, man. That looks sick. So we've got him actually for 2 more singles. So it's going to be like a 3-part claymation for the single releases for the album. So the next one will involve, it would be a bounty hunter who eventually will have to go get Alice. So it's sort of all the same world. I also thought it was kind of good. We were like thinking about music video ideas. So it was like, why don't we just get Ollie again and just put it all together as a 3-part series? So I think it would be fun.
The good thing as well with lockdown, everything happening at the minute, you can still shoot animation.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like a massive set full of people.
Yeah, well, he actually lives in Birmingham, so he was saying that halfway through filming Mr. Prism, they had like a heat wave, so all his clay was melting, and he was like, I can't do anything. Like his clay's just melted. I was like, just film that. That'd be even funnier. Just all the models.
It'd be quite disturbing.
Yeah.
That video, yeah, it's such a trippy video though for that track. Was that all recorded like throughout kind of a lockdown as well, or were you? Is that because it was done in your home studios, right? Or?
Yeah. So it's basically, I mean, call it home studio. I think this is it. I'll just show you my setup. It's literally the most primitive little Focusrite thing, my speakers, my Mac, and then I've just got a pile of guitars, and I've got a little Vox amp down here, pedal boards. I got that one from Fender, and then another couple of pedal boards. But man, it's so really, it's the same setup I've had for like part one, and then I've kept it because I think there's not too much budget to be like, let's go and buy all these compressors and whatever. So I was just like, all right, if it's working, and then just do a lot of like post-production kind of bits and pieces. But yeah, we've got a friend Sam at Tone City who we've been recording with a lot more. I mean, his gear it's stupid. He's got all the like Abbey Road sort of EQs and compressors, and I don't even know what they're called, just weird things that make stuff sound good. You're just like, all right, well, it's a different world, isn't it? I just got sort of so focused on writing a song, and then at the end of it, you're like, all right, now we've got to record it again to make it sound good, when I should probably be like, all right, I'm going to start with the guitar sounding good, or I'm going to start with this sounding good. So be a lot easier come the end of the track that you started off writing well.
How does the song change then if you go into a bigger studio like that? Like from what you're kind of going in with?
So I take the stems, like the guitar stems or on the bass and vocals, and I usually just have like little MIDI drums that I've made. Like I've got a machine, so just put like kick on that one, snare on this, hi-hats, whatever, and just build a kit. It's called like an old jazz kit on machine, but it sounds sick. It's just got like the best snare sound. So usually do that, and then we take out those drums, send it to Danny, who we go into the studio and we sort of be like, oh, well, it's basically like kind of a finished idea, but then sometimes it's like, well, that's actually impossible to play because I only have 2 arms and you've got these bells going and everything. So I'm like, all right, sweet. And then we work on kick patterns and basically get that drum sounding as close as we can to be able to play it in real life. And then I sort of go back. Usually keep the bass, because the bass is like, I really like the sound that just going through like this shitty Focusrite, it's like got zero kind of tone to it. So it's basically just normal. So if you do put it into the computer or whatever and you just chuck it through Guitar Rig, and then I take the cabs off all the amps, so you're just left with the raw sort of signal, just sounds so like wired and fuzzy that it's like, well, and it's perfect because it's DI'd. So instead of setting up an amp and going into get the cab tone for an amp, like a bass amp, I think most people these days would be DIing stuff. So if you're going into a studio and then DIing everything, you might as well just do that at home. So I suppose what studios should do at the moment, or are you using all their gear as well? But it's much better to go in there and get some warm amp tones and do it properly that way. But drums, for instance, like that's the one thing that I think if you can get a really good drum sound, like then it's so much easier to just stack on top of that rather than getting the worst drum sound and then you're trying to fit everything together backwards. So which is what we do.
How you don't want to sound is right? What's that kind of sensation, that feeling like when you know it's right and you've got that drum sound, for instance?
I think, man, it takes me like, I don't know if it's just like an ego thing or if I'm just like awful at trying to work with people, but like when I get home, I'm like, my band mix sounds better. And then it takes me like 2 weeks to sort of get used to Danny's drums again. And then, because obviously they're not going to sound anywhere like EQ'd the same and it's going to be completely different. So the more time I spend here, like getting the song finished, and it's also like choosing what pedal I'm using and what bass tone and then the vocals and how it all sits together, like in that sort of like which the spectrum of stuff where it's going to push through or what guitar tone to use for this. It's almost irrelevant before that I've got Danny's drums, because it all changes after that. He might be using a really dark cymbal, or he might be hitting a snare drum which is like deeper or darker. So then my vocals are sitting in the exact same spot, and then I've got to be like, all right, maybe I got to write a different vocal pattern now. So ideally, the best thing to do would be like get that drum sound before the song is even finished. So that way I can just go, or even most people, like they would jam, I suppose, and write the song in the studio first. Just spend, writing the song together as a band. It'd be good. I would love to do that one day. I think just at the moment, especially with isolation and COVID and stuff, it was just so easy to be like, sweet, just go and finish all this music and start writing. And I've been doing it for like, just as a hobby, I suppose, since I can remember really. As soon as I got a computer, it's like, all right, how do I make music? And now it's going back, it's like, all right, sweet, how do we be a band that uses this project's music? So I think it's good though, because Rish as well, so Luke, the guitar player, I think he was asleep when we last did the interview. I'm pretty sure he's like passed out on the bench, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So he's really good at recording. Like, he's got such a good style and sort of unique approach to how everything blends and molds together. And the way that he does it, obviously, is he plays drums, so his drum sound is the best thing, and then he builds around that. I think we're gonna do the next record. I'll just be with him. I'll just be like, take my hat off and be like, all right, sweet, let's just go with a different approach. So the best way of how we can make things sound. But I don't know. There's so many ways to do it, isn't it? You go crazy if you're trying to be like, it's perfect. Get like Rick Rubin on the phone or something.
Yeah, that's the problem. You've got these all just so many variations of the ways that you could make a song sound.
Yeah, exactly. And I still think, like, for some reason part one has like this weird, like, good quality, overall quality to it, even though we had no idea what we were doing. I think it's because we didn't care. We were like, that's the drums we're using because that's the only drum kit we have. That's the mics we're using because that's the only mics we have. And they kind of came together, and you were just like, you listen back to it and you're just like, it sounds right. It's like, how? And I'm now going backwards and trying to work out like why nothing sounds like that. So yeah, but I think if you're not learning, you're not progressing, and then you're just going to be flattened. So hopefully one day we'll have one album and it'll be up there, and we can just be like, we're there.
Is it easier to make music when you've got limitations then? Like what you're saying there for that first record, you didn't have any other option. But kind of these decisions were made for you to. I
think so. It's almost like a blissful ignorance of music production. Like, as the more you sort of know about it, the worse you are, really, because you're just like, I mean, it's probably why loads of mastering engineers aren't very good musicians, because they're just probably like, I can't, like, I know how to record, but to do their own project, they've probably been like, yeah, I've been working on this for 10 years. Nowadays, though, they're coming out kind of thick and fast, whereas before the sort of turn of the millennium, I suppose, like, or even like before 2005, I reckon, and then you started getting bands like, I mean, you've always had Nine Inch Nails, but I think before that, there wasn't too many people that were literally just recording themselves at home and be like, this is my music. And then it was like, obviously, Tame Impala came along, Mac DeMarco, Mild High Club, pretty sure Ty Segall does it all. I don't know if the OCs do, but King Gizzard as well. You were like, oh, we're allowed to do this now? Like, so all the stuff that we have been doing and learning in our bedrooms since growing up and supposed to be doing homework, you're like, all right, sweet, like, this is actually a thing. It's allowed now. So it's cool. And it almost like stemmed the lo-fi way that music is, really, isn't it? That lo-fi, crunchy rock, like, psych sound. I suppose, for lack of a better word, was because no one really knew what they were doing recording, and it was like, and now, for instance, Kevin Parker and Tame Impala are recording, like, the way his production stepped up, do you know what I mean? It's almost like he's not even playing guitar anymore, because he's like, nah, it's not a perfect instrument, so he's just using keys and synths and, like, just overall better quality things to record with. So yeah, he's thought about it a lot.
He's kind of well and truly down the rabbit hole now, though.
Yeah,
in terms of trying to find that perfect sound.
Oh, he would. Yeah, I can imagine he's probably sat there with a snare drum at his wave house for about 2 or 3 days. Man, yeah, you almost have to just not like think about it too much, else it would just take up all your time and eat you alive. But at least I suppose there are still studios that do that. It's also good work. I've never worked in a studio before this album, so drums, we've always recorded drums in the studio, so it's always good to see different people's techniques and how they sort of record. But it was the first time we did guitars on a few tracks. I think we did Mundungus, Prism, and Glitterbug, this one that's going to be on the album. And all we did in the end was DI it. And I was just like, well, I was doing that. Like, so what's the difference? But then you're going through like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of preamps and stuff. So you're like, oh, wow, that sounds huge. Whereas the difference is going through a Focusrite. It's the crispiest thing. So yeah, but it's nice. I think, yeah, eventually getting to the point, I don't even know, it's so confusing. It does, because you don't want to think about it like the more money you spend, the better it is. But I think people find a way of using what they have to make it sound good as well. Like if you've only got a little handheld like field mic to do guitars on or whatever, and you like plug it in at the bottom, you know, there's a little Zoom, like, are they H4s or whatever? Yeah, I used to have one of them. And you work out like what it's good for, and you're like, oh, the only thing it's good for is recording like a really fuzzy vocal take because it sounds like a megaphone. So you're like, sweet, just have that in your hand. But that's it. I think people find a way to use whatever.
So you always in recording mode then? Like you've got that kind of home studio setup where you can just go in and do stuff. How do you?
Yeah, man. I mean, when we got back from tour in November, I was dead, man. I think we were on the tour. We were on the road for about 8 months of that year, and home for just felt like nothing. It felt like we were here for 2 weeks, then we're flying off, and then here. And so I was kind of burnt out in November, and ended up obviously getting pneumonia and doing all these festivals at the beginning of the year. So sort of when COVID happened, I was almost like, oh, thank God. But like, obviously not really. But just to be
I didn't realize you had pneumonia until the single came out.
Oh, really?
And then I was listening to it and I was like, oh man.
Oh, well, we had to, like, the sort of, I mean, the higher beings of who controls music or whatever, the labels and management were like, all right, we got to get an album for May so you can be back on the road. I mean, the whole of this year was just like, I think we weren't going to be home till next October or something. Like, it was just, the diary looked so, it was terrifying to look at. You're like, oh my God. And in that time, it was like, you got to get an album out as well. So I sort of got home and knew that the break I had was not really a break. It was like just coming in, just recording. But I do that anyway, so it doesn't feel like work at all, because I'll just wake up. And it's really nice, actually. I got into a routine. It started to become a real bad habit, because I was just walking to the bottle shop. That would open up at 11. I'd come home, smash a 6-pack while just coming up with ideas, and then be like, that's it. And one of the maybe 4 or 5 ideas, I was like, all right, let's just give that a go. And if it didn't sound good in the day that I was recording it, then I'd leave it and then go on to another one. But if I woke up in the morning, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's got some potential. I'd sort of then spend the next day sort of honing in on that, and then just repeat, just being like, all right, 6-pack ideas, bang, and then just a bottle of wine while recording. Because it's so easy, you're just in your house. So, you just go into that. I was reading about it the other day. It's called like flow state. It would just be like morning, and you'd get out and you'd be like, oh, I feel kind of hungry, and you'd be like, fuck, it's 3 in the morning, and like the sun's gone down, and you're sort of just still working away at the song. So that was really fun. And then obviously when COVID happened and they were like, oh, like you can't go touring. I mean, obviously it's awful what happened, but it's sort of to tell someone who does music at their house and enjoys it and is like struggling to put out an album in the quickest time. It's like you have infinite amount of time now to write an album. It was like being doing the first record again, where there's no time constraints. You could sort of come up with ideas and get a really good, strong theme for the record down. Because I remember showing everyone sort of like what I had, and it was like this half metal, half. I was really into Nine Inch Nails, so it was like half that the Downward Spiral record, just like, and then all these kind of like jangly Beatles tracks. And I remember they were like, well, we got time. Like, why don't you just split it into 2 albums? And then we were going to have a double album, and then it kind of just came down into sort of what it is at the moment, where it was, I thought, like, if I want to do a record, who do I want it to sound like, and what is me? Because obviously it's sort of almost like branding yourself, like when you are recording at home. So I was like, what do I really like? What are my go-to albums? So I was like, Sgt. Pepper's, Nevermind, obviously Nirvana, and You Think I'm Manhood, and like Kings of Leon. So I was like, those 3 just kind of became the catalyst of being like, if I'm going in that sort of direction, it became like a tool almost to be like, if it didn't work on either of those 3, I'll save it for something else. So there was quite a strong stylized guide for me to work from this time, rather than being like, create anything. So, and I think that really worked. It's like, I've never tried that before. It wasn't like obviously sticking to it like religiously, but just to have some sort of blinkers and being like, all right, that's the idea of this album now, because some of the songs were starting to sound that way, and sort of reinvent it as well. So not just be like, it could fit on that. It would be like, if those 3 albums turned into one and sort of were reimagined. So that was sort of where I headed. And then obviously we finished it about a month ago. So yeah, it was like, and now I'm in this gap where I'm like, what do I do with myself? Yeah, like I had a week off. I bought a PlayStation, played like Red Dead Redemption for like a week straight. It was like, I haven't played PlayStation in about, since I was in England. I think the last game I played would have been Crash Bandicoot. I play FIFA like occasionally. Yeah, it is. That was a great game. And I originally played, I was just been playing FIFA or whatever. So I was like, is this the graphics? Yeah, like, is this, I bought I didn't realize PS5 was just about to come out. So I was like, PS4, bang, like the new technology or whatever. But man, that's an amazing game. I sat by a campfire for like 2 hours, just like, wow. Yeah, so now I need to go back into recording mode, just be normal again.
Would you say you're healthier in recording mode or in touring mode?
Oh man, definitely recording. Touring is like, you're in someone else's Saturday night, but you're just perpetually on like this sort of go mode. You wake up sort of hungover, you go to the next place, there's not really much time to like check out a city, even though you want to, like, and then you have to be on the road, whatever, 3 or 4 hours. Like England's pretty nice, because at least like the UK, it's like places are kind of close together a lot. Like sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, but it's usually like a 3 or 4 hour drive. But then sometimes we did Norway to Dundee once.
Oh.
So it was like, yeah, dude, in 2 days, and then played a gig with Royal Blood. And all you do is drink, because you're just like you're going mad. You're around people that you like. Everyone's like your brother and like your mate. But after a while, you're sharing beds with them, and then you haven't been home for ages. So you're just like, all right, you're drinking. We had a wrestling match, and I broke my rib. With Royal Blood. We were just like so amped up. And then you get home, you're like, you know that Rick and Morty episode where they're just like a quick in and out, and then they're back in the thing. They're just like, and they're just crying. That's like pretty much when everyone gets home. Like, see you later. Just, you're like, what just happened? Yeah, but it's fun. It's definitely fun. But you're definitely your most extroverted side on tour. I think there's not much time to sort of really chill out. But the days off are good. I think we had like 2 or 3 days off. One we had in Saint Sebastian in Spain. That place is amazing. Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, so there's a lot of places we get to see, and we like do occasionally get the day off. But it's usually pretty much like, oh, you've got 2 hours to go and explore Edinburgh. So we're just running around to every pub, like, all right, right, quick, like what's it? There's a castle. All right. So it's literally like that everywhere. But that's fun. But definitely healthier being home.
Why did you? Is that what the pneumonia came out of? Was it just being so run down from kicking about all the time, or like just not stopping?
I think so. I think it was just like, yeah. So I got home and just sort of a little tiny break off, like being like sleeping in my bed, and I just remember waking up like 3 or 4 days later being like, wow, I feel pretty weird. And then it just slowly, I think having that rest, you don't sort of crash like enough. Yeah. I slept for about 2 or 3 days, like fully just like, all right. Yeah, like came out of it and was like, it was Christmas. So I was just like, why do I feel so shit? And it's like, and I'm not like a person that goes to the doctors a lot, so I was just like, I'll push through, it's just a cold. And I was still like smoking and drinking, and I was like eventually just like, nah, like I can't even breathe. So I walked in. That was after coming back from Laneway tour. Like I was just in like on the airplane, like sounded like Darth Vader. But then they said I got it, so I was like, all right, sweet. And it was actually kind of nice. It was like, you have to stay in bed for like a week. But it took me about a month and a half to really get over it. So I wasn't properly fixed till maybe March time, from like Christmas, like where I could actually sing again. So like that, I mean, it was nice though, because I just had a bit of time to just chill to myself. And when everyone's like, oh, do you want to come out and get a beer? You're like, no, I'm dead. Seriously. Yeah, I'm doctor's note. Yeah.
Oh, that was one hell of a touring season, because when we went last time, did you not have your bags nicked or something?
Oh man, from Manchester, yeah. That was right, I had a pair of these headphones in there as well. I had to go and buy some new ones, but yeah, that guy, there was on CCTV where it was like riding part. I can't remember what we played. It was a really good venue. A Band on the Wall or something. Some guy was just, while we were loading our gear into the van, was just there on a push bike, just rode past and just took off my bag. So yeah, I was like pretty deflated after that trip. I was just like, oh. And it had my passports in it, didn't it?
Yeah, because I remember when I met you, you were like, you didn't know we were going to get to go to Europe or not.
Yeah, that was right. So I spent 2 days in... See, these are all... I'm always thankful. Thank you very much to that man in Manchester who has my bag now. Because I got to spend... Everyone went to Amsterdam. And we were supposed to do like a radio show and a show in Amsterdam. And I had the night off, and they got me a flight in London. I think it was in Victoria. But just one night off from everyone. And to be like... I got the... we had a show in Brighton. We were hanging out with the Royal Blood boys. And then I got the train into London to do like a fast... pace, like express passport, so we could go. But I found out like in a matter of hours that it was successful. Also, all I had to do was pick it up in the morning. So I was like, brilliant, I've got the day off where I'm just carefree in Victoria. I ended up meeting these 2 Irish boys, and it was the day that Liverpool played Arsenal. It's like that 5-5 match.
Fuck.
So we were so we were in this pub, and I was just like by myself, and they were like, "Oh, come drink with us." So I was like, "Sweet." It was like such a huge night. I was like, I'm on holiday. Like, this is what it feels like. And then just woke up like severely hungover. It's like, oh no. Got on a flight to Amsterdam of all places, and it's just like, all right, I made it with like 10 minutes to go to do the gig and the rest of the tour. So it worked out pretty well actually. Yeah, because I mean that could have been savage. We had to cancel all them shows. But
that would have been a nightmare. Yeah.
And I was just thinking, how stupid are passports? They're so old. Like, what old technology? if you have a phone and you have all your banking details on them and you lose a card, at least you'd be like, sweet, I've got like online pay or whatever. But as soon as you go on holiday and lose a passport, they're like, you're illegally here now, like, get out. You're just like, but I'm still me. I haven't changed that. It's like, it should just be like a thing on your phone. Just be like, yeah, like, here it is. It's just identification, really, isn't it? But
yeah, I guess it's similar like voting. It's just the technology hasn't really caught up yet. Like, why we all still got to vote, and you think you would be able just to do it from your phone now?
Yeah, I know. Like, that makes so much more sense. And then if you're home, like my brother was saying as well, like, he had this good idea about saying that every morning, like before you do anything, you have to wake up and whatever's in court or whatever for that day, or like things that need to be passed, you just have a questionnaire. It's like, should we increase school dinner allowance, or like, should we do, yeah, all right, cool, sweet, we'll pay that. And then it goes into court. It's like everyone on their phone, or the millions of people that live in like Scotland or England or whatever, you have your own little independent ones, and in Australia, so it's like, or, you know, because you never know, I don't even know how anything works, but it's like, if everyone just voted on it, and they woke up in the morning and were like, yeah, okay, sweet, gay marriage, it's done. It's like, it literally took like 10 minutes. And there it is. And so rather than spending all this money, it's like, that's what everyone wants. Sweet, it's done.
Just passing stuff.
It'd be so easy. Yeah, that's it. We just set it up, the voting app. Just get it.
So to come back to that, the latest single as well, is Mr. Prism a character?
A lot of the stuff I would do is like alter egos, I suppose, like aliases of like nights out. So there's one I have called Norton, who's become Norton Gavin. So if you get full Norton, it's like, I kind of don't know, I'll be sleeping on park benches, or I got, it's like, oh god, someone's full Norton. Like, so they're just off. Like, so yeah, but Mr. Prism was, so when we did that Laneway festival, and I was like severely ill, someone just kept offering me a bunch of stuff, and they were offering everyone, like, Rich has done it as well, most of the boys, you just be so sick and so dead, but someone's like, do you want a line of coke? You're like, oh god, yeah, go on then. Like, no matter how dead you are, you'd always take a line of coke. So it was like, he's Mr. Prism. So that was sort of the alter ego of that song. Yeah, that's why at the end it's like, nobody fears the nose beers, because it's like, even if you're like dead, I'm sure someone would be there like, yeah, go on then. Just a little whisper.
Oh, it's such a good chant as well to end the song on.
Yeah, man, it's gone.
Like, you can just imagine crowds turn it back.
It's been sick, and we've been playing. So when the riff gets onto that, we go straight into Balls on Parade. So it'd be like, and that's just the intro riff. It's good. It's a good segue into it.
You do that thing as well in that song. You do it quite a bit where you like do like an exact detail. Like, I think that's like flight number 44, and it's the same in Buzz, but we were speaking about earlier, when you say like the exact time, like 1:33, just like such a specific detail.
Oh yeah.
It just adds like another layer to the track.
I think well, the flight 44 was how many flights we did that year. So it was like we had 44 flights from January to December. I think it was perfectly that. So the amount of times we're just going like plane off, like bang. So yeah, that was a good detail. And who was Alexander Fleming. They originally, when I went to the doctors, they were like, "Oh, you have what's the thing? Tonsillitis." I was like, "Oh, true." So they gave me loads of penicillin, and which was just not doing anything. So I was like, "Oh, thanks, Alexander Fleming, for keeping me alive." But then it actually wasn't that at all. So it's kind of like this weird thank you. But he thought he could help me.
He's a famous Scot.
He is, and what else did he invent? He's got a couple of them. I got another famous Scot in there as well. Edwin Beard Budding. He invented the lawnmower, and I've got him in one of the songs. So I'm like, hats off to Edwin Beard Budding for making the lawnmower. Yeah, I did. Maybe we go down in Scotland then. I've got these Scottish inventors in the songs.
Just start dropping them in throughout each one. It's the paper control.
Yeah.
Had you been back across here before you started touring again? Because you kind of grew up here, did you start with?
Yeah, I grew up in Milton Keynes, or just like outside like Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire area. But it was really nice. I remember it being like, it was like a little village, 10 pubs or whatever in the village. Yeah. And then you could ride like a tractor through the woods to get to like the next pub in the next village. So it was like hell small, great town to grow up in. So, and I'd been back once. And then so the first time we did a tour here was like seeing all the family again. That was really good. But my granddad, he was from Glasgow. I think there should be a couple of McEwans living there, or like there's a few of them in Newcastle, which is good. So managed to go there. Didn't get to watch a game though. Dad's a massive Geordie, so yeah, I wanted to go to the football, but we just had no time. I think there was one game that Luke got to see. So he went to a Tottenham match, and then everyone else. It's hard because no one else likes football or soccer or football. Everyone calls it soccer here. But
Is football, is it big in Australia?
yeah, we've been going to watch the local games. So there's Floria Athena. So when everyone sort of emigrated here, obviously back in the day, they started up like the local. So there'd be like a Greek team, there'd be an English team, there'd be a Macedonian team, Italian team. Yeah, I think there's a Scottish team and stuff. So that was what they were called. It would be like Perth Italia, or I think Sorrento English and Stirling Macedonians. So now, but they've formed into teams. But I mean, there's only like 600 people go there. It'll be like some sort of conference style thing. But man, anywhere that sells beer, and the other guy who's in a band, this guy called Cal Kramer from the Southern River Band, he's one of the funniest people in the world. And so when COVID sort of broke a bit here and we were allowed to go back out again, I was like, man, I haven't watched a game of football in like, it felt like a year. It's like, we're going to the local games. And so I've just been watching the local games, and it's brilliant, man. You just sit there, 3 o'clock kickoff. Usually it's like sunny, and you just sit with a couple of mates just watching like football, and then you go out afterwards. So, but I think the A-League that we have here, it's too difficult to really get into because the home games is every second week or something like that. But then, because teams like Wellington Phoenix are in it, they're like 8 hours away in New Zealand. It's like, so the entire league is like literally this size of Europe. It'll be like playing someone in Azerbaijan each week. So yeah, so you can't really go to an away game, but you can when you go and watch the local league, and it's just a good laugh. So that's what we've been doing. Cricket's big here, and they got AFL obviously. So that's the biggest sport. See, that's weird. They managed to allow 30,000 people into Optus Stadium to watch the AFL, but we could only get 500 people like maximum into venues. You're like, how? Like, but at least we're now doing festivals, as we said before, so it's all right. We'll let him have that one.
Where was the festival at the weekend again? I think we were speaking about it before we started recording.
Yeah, Wave Rock Weekender, which was sick. They did, well, Tame Impala did a DJ set, and then Pond played Headline Sunday. We did the Saturday night. A couple of local bands, like really, really good band called Grievous Bodily Calm. Like, you should check out their music. They're, oh man, unreal.
Grievous Bodily Calm.
Yeah, like they do sort of like almost funky, like new age hip hop, but it's with the most animated keys player ever. You think he's doing like just arpeggiated stuff like, but it's just fingers are doing it, and then he's going on like this and whatever, and then they got like one of the best rhythm sections around. Sort of like a super group from Perth that formed from a bunch of different bands, and then just came up with this really cool sporadic style of music, which I really haven't. I mean, it might be like The Commoners Coming, kind of that kind of style. Yusuf Kamal, a bit that vibe, but they've just stepped up the game and just for like, now we're gonna do it like Aussie style. It's good. Yeah, there was loads of good bands. It was just like the Perth local community. Just drove out 4 hours into a field and did drugs all weekend, but it was good.
I was going to ask, actually, I had that in my notes for later. What role would you say psychedelics have in creativity?
Oh man, when we first started, like everything, I think just thinking differently is, I mean, not like necessary if you've already got kind of a creative brain, but I think if you, whatever you take, you're not going to usually think about a lot of the stuff that you do on acid or mushrooms. And so when you kind of come back and you're like, oh God, we're at reality, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then you sort of, I suppose it kind of opens up different corridors for you to write or get excited about. But now I'm terrified of it, man. I think I'm one slither away from just falling off the end of the world and never coming back. So yeah, one day I'll be able to pull myself back together, but I think, oh, am I just getting old? Maybe I'm just like, I like my reality right now. So if someone gives me a tab, I'm like, oh God, it's going to change. Yeah. So I'm just like, all right, happy with beer, happy with whatever really. But yeah, a couple of tabs deep at the festival would be my nightmare right now. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you tripped?
Oh man, like I think I took a bunch of mushrooms at like just after we'd finished school. So I was pretty young. I think I was like 16 or some shit. Yeah, it was like insane. Just fully, I just remember thinking I was a giraffe and had peripheral vision. And then I could just watch, like swing from lifetimes to lifetimes on this like rope. So I'd be like off here. And then as it sort of, like, you know, when you just get that like audio hallucination, like, whoop, 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 whoop. And then it was like all the reality stacked in, folded back into me. And I was like, am I me now? Like, that's it? Like, that's who I am? And it was like insane. So I was like, fuck, like probably shouldn't do that a lot. But I haven't, man. I think it's only like, what do you call it, once a year maybe. Like, I wouldn't be the type of person, I don't think any of us are, that would be like, yeah, each weekend fucking getting on it. It's just like, I think because it has such a profound effect that you just like, well, I don't want to touch. You don't touch it until you forget about it. Do you know what I mean? And then when you're about half an hour in, you're like, oh fuck, I remember this. Like, this is gonna be a long one. Like, all right. But I think now it's like, definitely much prefer a good conversation, a beer at a pub, sitting down in the sun, rather than being like, let's go home and just extend our brains. Like,
you probably gain quite a lot of stuff as well. Like, you gain less the more you do it as well, if you know what I mean. Or maybe not if you leave it a while. But
and I think because most people are like, they're like, oh, you always hear people be like, I got synesthesia and like, blah, 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 whatever. And you're like, well, everyone has it. They're fucking dropping off acid. It's like, it's like, so it's almost like a superhero power, isn't it? For like a certain amount of time. And then, but you don't want to abuse it at all. Some people, the poor people as well, I've seen them just like, it terrifies me now because you're just like, what was I thinking? Some of the stupid decisions you make when you're just drunk and you just like take some stuff. And I don't think it's necessary for writing, but it's like, I think, as you can tell, most bands the whole of the 60s, it was just like such a like gigantic shift in music and development. And then the 70s was like the heaviest thing ever. And you're like, why was that? And then, like just looking around at what they were taking at the time. But I think now it's like calm down a bit. Maybe I wouldn't mind doing what Trent Reznor did when he was like, just went and recorded in the Charles Manson house, didn't he? Or where the Manson murders were? Oh, not that I would
fuck
get
that.
Right. I don't want to do this. I'm just saying, like, his writing style, like, or his, like, I'd call him a method writer rather than a method actor. He'd be writing methodically, being like, all right, I'm going to go and get myself into the deepest, darkest thing that I can. Rent it out to fucking... Shirley, whatever her name is, that where the Manson murders were, rented that house out, recorded Downward Spiral, like, while just fucked off his nut, and then was like, all right, I'm finished, here it is, and then just probably put his suit and tie on and went back to his normal job. Like, but I think there's something like, not romantic, but there's something kind of interesting about that, just being like, I'm gonna really extend my brain for a bit, I'm gonna go off, do like a Bon Iver. Be like, all right, I'm going to go and feel my heartbreak in a cabin, like in the middle of like Canada or Alaska or wherever he went. But he came back with a beautiful piece of art. It's like, so maybe all the stuff that you do need to isolate yourself and really get into strange headsets to create something a bit weirder. I've always wanted to do this. I want to call it the Mowgli test. So you know Mowgli from Jungle Book?
Yeah.
So if you were like, you had a child or something that grew up on an island somewhere who'd never heard like modern music and never even considered the thought of like instrumentation, but he got a guitar on there somehow, like what music would he make? It's a cool concept to think about, because I know like Mongolia or whatever, so those are they called Mongolian throat singers or whatever, and so they don't have normal tonal music, so they think all our music is out of tune because their ears are like so different. So they'll sing, you'll be like, oh, it's like fucking, what are they singing? It's like, I don't understand, but their notes are all different. So even music in the world is completely different. So you're almost thankful that I suppose there's a good reach of popular music now. Imagine if you just have one like city in the world that were like, they love my atonal like gibberings, like, and you're like, we get to go to Reykjavik like once a year just to be like, I suppose that's what Sigur Rós is. But like, thank God there is like sort of the internet to be like, put it all together. Here it is now on your phone. You just listen to the bits and pieces. We can have a chat about it. Any good Scottish bands I should be cranking at the moment? Oh, actually, I was going to check. I was like, did you see Biffy Clyro's cover of WAP?
I did see that,
Oh, man. I love Biffy Clyro, but that hurt.
I think they knew what they were doing.
You did?
No publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
It got everyone talking about it.
It did. Go on the biff, up the biff. Anyway,
I was going to say Man of Moon. Have you heard them?
Man of Moon. No, I'm going to write it.
Man of Moon.
Oh, Man of Moon.
I feel like you probably dig them.
Man of Moon.
Yeah.
I'll listen to them.
I feel like they just put their record on Friday. I feel like you probably dig it. It's a bit psych-rock.
Oh, sick. All right, I'll give it a crank.
Yeah, it's kind of got a few different things going on. They have this really cool song on it, Strangers. It's kind of like psych-rocky doing LCD sound system.
Oh, sick.
But really dancey.
Sick.
It's cool. It's decent.
There was actually a hell good band I really liked. Oh, man. All my music got wiped off Spotify, so I've been trying to remember what I like downloaded over the last couple of years. I can't remember. They did apparently a tour with Noel Gallagher, Neon something. Neon Waltz. Dude, they were sick. I like their
Great
album.
band.
Yeah, I like their album. They got one track.
They supported DMAs as well.
Oh, did they? Man, good on them.
Yeah.
Man, DMAs are huge now. It's funny, like they sort of started off here and weren't too big, and then they did that cover of what was that?
Believe.
And just blew up worldwide. Because they were just, I suppose they have got like that sort of English like attire, like they look kind of
like kind of like Britpop sensibility.
Yeah. So when they were here, I think everyone thought they were English, and then they were like, oh, they're Australian. It's like, so everyone loves the hometown gigs here.
I think they're bigger here than they are in Australia though.
Oh, for sure.
Well, they did like, was it Brixton, like 5,000 cap?
Oh, really? Fuck, that's big.
Back in March, yeah, right before everything, like literally like 2 weeks before everything shut down, they played Brixton.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's like stadium level here, so get an arena. Good on them.
What would you say is like the biggest driver on your creativity? Has the biggest impact on your creativity?
I don't like nights out. Like I always try and like thought I could write fictionally. There's loads of stuff like songs I recorded before Porn Crumpets, and it'll be like Alex Turner's so good at it that you're just like, oh, it'd be simple to make up some sort of character that's kind of like still believable, but I kind of just suppose write or on past experiences. So like Found God in Tomato, it was literally just me thinking fucking I found God in a fridge. When I opened it up, it was just one tomato, and it was like so surreal. It's like, and it's sort of like that first album, all the sort of stories and bits and pieces were usually just like, it was easy to write upon because I had 22 years of prior sort of experience that I could write about. So then it got down to now. So a lot of the stories are just like what we did like last tour and how stuff has been here. I think eventually I would like to, I don't know, go and do some like mad English class and just sit down or read like every single book in the world. Just be like, all right, I've done it 50 years later. And then be like, now I can write some proper stuff. But yeah, I always feel like lyrics, they always come like last, or so it would be like, I'll definitely write the music first. I'll just sing gibberish, so I'll be like find the sort of where I'm actually going to sing or like what note works, and then like try and write into that. So it's almost like strange scattered poetry, really, that it just comes out as, like a lot of it doesn't even make sense, but I kind of enjoy that. It's a bit Lewis Carroll. But yeah, his stuff's amazing. I think both for music, yeah, definitely just nights out, man. Because it's just funny. I suppose it's all intoxicated things. I suppose most songs, like, if you narrowed it down, everything would be like, I reckon half the songs ever wrote are about love, and then you write about time, and then they're all about death. And you sort of go through, and I was trying to write down like all the different things, like the 10 most common things, and then be like, all right, I never want to write one of them. It's like the easier thing, do you know what I mean? Like when you like write a poem, you're like, oh, the sky, like, and then you're like, oh, like there's my feelings, and you're like, so you try and get all the cheesy bits and pieces out first, and then you're like, all right, now what's this song about, like, and then you eventually be like, yeah, it's about fucking Find God in Tomato. So it's like, I'm sure there's only one of them, and it'd be nice to eventually be like, all right, at least that when we do write an album, like you'd kind of get excited about hopefully hearing something different that doesn't sound like anything else, or it's not just a rip, or it's not just the same lyrics. So I suppose that's what you're anticipating, do you know what I mean? It's why everyone really looks forward to watching a Wes Anderson movie or a Tarantino, because they've got such a unique style that you like. They're different, they're unique. They sort of, sit better with an audience than, say, Woody Allen making a million Woody Allen movies, although they're really good. I like them.
They've all got their own personality. Like those directors you're speaking about, it comes across in the film.
Exactly. And you just kind of want to listen to the dialogue, and you want to find out their characters and what they've built, and so that's the excitement. I swear I'm more excited about waiting for a Wes Anderson movie than I am probably watching it.
He was supposed to have one coming out this year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that looked really good as well.
Got a classic cast.
Yeah, dude, he always just uses the same sort of like Bill Murray's and his cast. Who's the what's his name? Jurassic Park guy.
Jeff Goldblum.
Man, there's nothing better than that Rick and Morty episode where Jeff Goldblum is like that globby thing. It's like in the place that can't die. I don't know. Oh, he's good.
Do you have to search for like inspiration, or does it always just come to you? Is it always there? Can you always tap into it? Because it seems like you write quite a lot of stuff, and you're able to kind of just go into the studio and let rip.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never forced it, which is kind of nice. Like, there's been times obviously where you get deadlines given to you. Like, I was probably more worried this year, like when they were like, you got to have an album out by May, and I was like, well, I literally have no songs. So it's like, how can you tell someone that and then be like, it just seems cheap. It seems like you're giving away, you're selling something that you're forcing. I mean, the best albums, like for instance, Tool spends 15 years or whatever writing a record. Some say it might be worth the wait, some say they might want it more, but at least they cared about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like they actually were generally like, nah, we're going to make a piece of art and it's going to take us this long, and here you go. So rather than the bands that kind of turn around, like, unless they're good, but you can always listen when it's like they have one single and then they have 9 filler tracks and they're just pumping out records. And you're just like, well, why? They kind of devalues music and devalues musicianship. So it was really nice to be, when I do sit down, it's like to be able to say like, nah, it's not ready yet. Put your foot down, I suppose. And that was kind of good that this year I could do that. And then, I mean, at the moment, it's like I'm already sort of a good like 30 tracks into the next one. So, and a lot of them I sort of left and I was like, if that doesn't fit, and I had this idea for the next record. So it's going to be the greatest hits of this Perth musician, Sir Norton Gavin. So we're going to go do his 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and record it in the way that it was recorded. So, I mean, the hard thing is, I'll tell you, because it's like, he's fictional, but I don't know how to do, like, would it be a better idea if he was a real guy? And if everyone was like, oh, who the hell's Norton Gavin? And we sort of had this idea, it was like, we should, like, he is going to be real. And we're going to theme it like that. So we're going to have on Spotify, like, all Norton Gavin's records. And when he went into, like, 60s and 70s and changed the game in the 80s when he started getting synth involved. And then 90s music, he came up with, like, new metal. So it's, like, it's been a really fun project. It's like we can just change it. And we're going to do 5 little songs from each thing. But I kind of want to do an album. I wanted to make a 40-track record. Be like, here's the 60s 10 tracks on each decade.
And do music videos and stuff for the minute as well?
No, they've not thought about them yet, but I think like it'll be good to do them and style them like the way that everyone else has, like put them back there. But yeah, so that's been a really fun project to sort of start at the moment. So, and what I've done is like, so rather than finish the track like here in the room, which I usually do, and then show everyone like the finished product, and then we go and record it. It's sort of I've been like more, but making sure it's a scratch track and not getting too attached to it, so we can go into a studio and be like, right, let's, like we said before, let's make sure this is produced and recorded the best way possible. Because I just get attached with everything, so that's been a really hard way to do it. I mean, eventually, hopefully, like I could write an album and mix it and master it and be like really happy with it. But I know, like, oh man, I'm gonna need years of schooling. So yeah, so this way is a lot better, and just start jamming again, like with the band. So yeah, try and make it more of a collaborative effort rather than a isolated bedroom like weird thing.
I guess it comes back to what you were speaking about those records. They're like, you know how we were saying with the first one that there was some limitations. Like if you put those kind of things in place, like you're doing with that,
yeah,
maybe makes it a wee bit easier to kind of proceed and be creative in there.
Yeah, oh for sure. Yeah, I think that was like, it was the first. I mean, this would be the first concept album that we've done. So I think it generally it makes you feel so much more creative because you're just like, I mean, I've always said like it's going to be really hard to be like, all right, draw anything, rather than be like, draw a skull with a tree coming out, there's monkeys hanging off that tree, and then you've got like flowers coming out of everyone's eyes. Like you're like, oh, sweet, all right, I can do that because it's so much detailed and precise way of saying it that you probably get more creative with something that you've been given. So to be like, it's this weird rock guy, Norton Gavin, who's lived like a rock star life and never got his music out there from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Like, so, I mean, doing research on that, I've sort of taken like a case study in a way. I've been like, what music have I missed from the 80s, or what music have I missed from the 60s? But man, the 80s is one of the most awful decades of music ever. It's just like, apart from like thrash metal, I mean, every 70s rock band came out with the worst bad rock ballad music ever in the 80s. And then it was like grunge at the end of it. And so it was like, oh, thank God. I mean, there was like, yeah, there really wasn't too much that, apart from electronic music, it kind of just went like, I mean, Madonna was probably the biggest thing. And that's what you think about at least like you had like Metallica sort of stem out. And I think that's the way we're sort of trying to take it, to be like, right, let's go heavy in this direction. So, and then blend that with Norton Gavin's style. Yeah.
Take it. I imagine him having a few left turns as well in his career.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think we were gonna say that he was in rehab for the whole of the 80s, so he never actually did the 80s. We'd just be like,
just skip it.
Yeah, that's it. Like he actually never released anything here.
And then he comes back with a grunge record right at the start of the 90s.
Exactly. That's it. The 90s grunge, and it's just like birthing new metal. Like it'll be good.
How do Limitations work, like structurally as well? Because I know with the last record, if you look at like Keen for Kick-On's Bill's Mandolin and but Him for a Drug, they take on that slightly more like conventional pop structure when it comes to the actual songs.
Yeah.
Was that quite a conscious choice, and if so, how did that kind of affect your writing of them?
Yeah, definitely. So it was like I'm in two minds whether what like music I enjoy and what sort of I enjoy creating, and like I think after recording 1 and 2, I was like, what is a song like? And if this is now going to be a thing, like if we're going to be a band and we're going to go tour and play music, I was like, it wasn't just like, oh, let's just write. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't sort of like a hobbyist band anymore. It kind of felt like it had a bit of projection, and there was like sort of like something to aim for. So I was like, sort of really went back and was like, what is a song? Like, what do people enjoy? Like, and that crippled me, because then I started thinking about what other people like and so then kind of forgot what I liked a bit. And I think you can hear that in What.You.Call.It. It was like me aiming at sort of a target audience, and then also me writing, like, so things like When in Rome, I was like, that's such a massive riff, but then we ruined the sort of production of it, and it was so raw and great, and then we overthought it, and it kind of lost its like edginess. Like it was just it should have been a huge Sabbath track, and we should have left it like that, and then it was like, now let's think about it and let's do this, and so that crippled that song a bit. So this time round I wanted to still stick with like a structured song, like a 3 or 4 minute kind of idea, and don't let the listener get bored or kind of carried away too much. But I wanted the album to be 40-minute song, really. So it's like from start to finish, everything will blend into each other, and not in the way that it's like one theme idea. It'll be like the last 4 chords of this will connect perfectly with this, and the last note will make sure that it's an F sharp or whatever, so that we'll go into the next one in F sharp. So this time around, it was like the track listing sort of became at the start like solidified very early on. And then if I was like, wow, that doesn't work, like it's like in 150 and then it goes straight to like a 190 BPM track, it's sort of like play that, and then I'd be like, oh, I had a mellotron, so I'd just be like, oh, like hitting some chords, like, right, that's what it needs something weird in between, even if it's just 30 seconds to tie off this to that. So I wanted the album to be like a more flowable listening, because sometimes it's like, I really enjoy listening to those old psych-rock tracks, and when people have like a 6 or 7 minute track or like a 10-minute track, or sleep like an hour fucking dope smoker, like that stuff's sick. But it's almost like now the way that I prefer writing, it's like, let's get like the idea at least across in the first 10-20 seconds, and then if it does go anywhere, it's going to be not like a gigantic change from where the original start of the song was, because as much as I enjoy listening to it, it's like you almost feel like, I don't even know, because I'm listening to so much different music at the moment, and I'm like, what do I like clowncore, for instance, like that stuff's sick, but it's still like the same thing, do you know what I mean, for like 2 minutes at least. So I didn't want to be like, you're going to put it on for 30 seconds and then it's going to be this beautiful orchestral thing, and then we're going to go into an acoustic solo, and then it's going to go different. So even though there's that stuff on the record, it's like I just wanted to kind of theme it and be like, right, sweet, it's going to be so drenched in something, like, and you'll be like, oh, that has to be from the new album. I don't even know if we're giving the title away. I don't even know if I'm allowed to give the title away, but it's got its flavour. So that's what I think I'm more proud of. Like, wrote something that be like, sweet, and you'd be able to be like, sweet, I couldn't be on any other record. So and I think I just want to keep going that way, like as in Norton Gavin the next one, and SHYGA this one. So
it's like the Beatles. If you hear a Beatles song, you can instantly kind of tell what record it's going to come off. Like of those.
Yeah, and man, dude, I love listening to them. Like Revolver is just so distinct, and I mean, you could almost class the Magical Mystery Tour and Sgt. Pepper's as sort of one record.
Yeah, I suppose they're a wee bit, yeah.
Yeah, but then definitely Abbey Road, you're like, yeah, drenched in a certain flavour, which is just really nice. So that's, yeah, this record, that was my focus anyway, to be like, think about the album more than the song.
I guess if you look at like side B of Abbey Road as well, that kind of links into what you're saying in terms of it flowing from song to song and just having that.
Yeah, dude, that is pretty much we just wanted to record that. So I just changed, I was like, that man, there's not even a better piece of It's the most insane thing I've ever heard, and still. And you're just like, how did you do that? And they're all great, catchy bits and perfect songwriting. It just like medleys into one beautiful piece of music. So
And it feels like such a complete thought as well.
yeah, it does, and it feels like they knew exactly what they're going to do and take it. It wasn't just like, all right, let's change here because we're going to change here because we can, because we know what, like the way that 5/4 blends perfectly into 7 or whatever. It's like, nah, it's like they did exactly what they wanted. So that was the same with this record. I was just like, all right, trying to emulate that almost, to be like, all right, this is where we're going to head. And it definitely leads for a better album listen. So when people are like, oh, where's your 10-minute tracks? It's like, it's a 40-minute song, but it's you can take it into different bits and pieces. So it should work.
It's split into like scenes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because a lot of the songs as well, they sort of feel, I think it's a 14-track record, so there isn't, I don't think even there's a stop. I didn't like that as well, because obviously from track 7 and 8, they're like the two that sort of blend the most, but because we had to cut it on the vinyl, it just finishes, it goes, ah, and then you have to be like, and then, yeah, so I was like, ah, yeah. But I don't know, there's no other way around it. Not unless you could sort of fold the two in half somehow, so it's like flips and just goes. That'd be a good invention.
What you need is 2 record players and 2 records. So you've got one going, and then as soon as one ends, you just let the other one drop.
Oh yeah. That's a banging idea.
Sell twice as many records.
Yeah, we'll get it.
How does the way you think about the overall narrative of the record differ to the way you think about the narrative of an individual song?
It's a question, really, isn't it? That one's because it's easy to put flavour into a song. And then it's like, when you're thinking about it as the album, it's like, how does every song sound different but sound the same, but then add to one piece of music? And I think that's the best sort of challenge, or what I'm more excited about now to write. So I can't really sit down. Whereas before, when we were first starting out, I'd write Marmalade March, or I'd write Cubensis, and it was just like songs, and they were like very flavor. And I think that's why I kept them to be like 5 minutes. Or Denmark, for instance, which is like, well, I think it's like 8 minutes. It was like, I really thought about the song, and it was very lucky that they kind of fit on the record. Do you know what I mean? It was like it was like, here's the songs that I've wrote, and here's the record. And I think when you listen to it, you're like, fuck, that was, yeah, that did go together, or this went together. So now, in the way the approach, I suppose, it's like, I definitely think about a record, and I can't just sit down for like a week and then come back 3 weeks later. It has to be like, all right, I'm spending 3 or 4 months honed in this environment, and we're going to come out with a record at the end of it. And I think that's what I really enjoy doing. So maybe one day I should do a song-based thing, but it'd be nice to be like, if we did like a couple of 20-minute songs or something, because I've been talking to Ben Caddy, who does the strings for Crumpets. So he was at the festival on the weekend. He's Danny's brother. We were sort of talking about how strangely it has evolved from being like orchestral pieces which had movements, then going into 3 minutes somehow. Like, that's the way the ear has changed. So throughout time, it's like, here's a movie, and now you're happy with the trailer. You're still getting the same dopamine hits, you know what I mean? People have like got to be like, here's 15 seconds of a verse, and here's your dopamine, get it in here. And then they're like, let's put it 4 times and get it in here. And that's the radio now. Whereas before, you'd almost just have like, you've waited 15 minutes to be like, and it's, oh God, it's here. Then just the strings and crescendo and shit. So it'd be really nice to one day just be like, let's record a big hour-long orchestral weird thing. And I wanted to put it into like a Fringe show, because Fringe is quite big here. I know Edinburgh's got a massive Fringe, well, it originated there, but Perth has got quite a good one too. So I've always gone and watched Friends plays, and I helped out design the poster for another one. And generally, I just love the drinking area. It's got the best beer garden in Perth when it's on, and it's my favourite place in the world. But I'd love to do a show there as well. And if we could do that as some sort of orchestral thing, it would be like almost like like a new age operatic experience where it's not vocals. It could just be some guy like, as much as everyone laughed at, or that Shia LeBeouf thing, that was like weird, and it's he's coming around the corner, Shia LeBeouf. That was insane. Like, I would watch an hour of that, and it was just like, I don't even know what it was.
He's a fascinating guy.
He's self-aware, which is brilliant.
Very idiosyncratic.
Yeah, and I think that makes his life is the performance art piece. And like, to be aware of that, it's like there's the difference between him and Gary Busey. Like Gary Busey, you're like, what are you doing, Gary? And then there's Shia, and be like, what are you doing, Shia? But Shia knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's so involved in his own production or makeup or what he projects to people that it's like, fuck, it's smart. It's like he's clever guy.
I feel like he's definitely got a better handle on it now than he did though. Like when he first started doing shit like that, people just thought it was insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you call it? Wasn't he a child actor for ages? So I wanted to go and watch his movie, the one where his dad's the director and he plays his dad or whatever.
I hadn't heard about this.
So he's got a new movie that came out. It literally came out like the week of COVID, and it was at the cinemas, and I think he pulled it from the cinemas. But he did here. So he plays his dad, teaching him growing up, like acting.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, the trailer looks sick. It looks like it'll be like a mad movie. And he directed it as well. So it's his first film where he plays his dad. And then so there's someone playing Shia, like a little Shia, just as a child actor. But it looks cool. I mean, and I think that's what everyone says, isn't it? Like, if you're going to do any writing, write about what you know about. So, what time is it where you are?
4 in the morning.
Holy fuck! Mate, why did you do it so late?
I thought it would have been a good idea. I thought, the plan was, I live next to like a main road, so I thought it's going to be quiet, so it'll be perfect.
Yeah, okay. Well, did you wake up or did you go to sleep? Or?
The plan was to go to sleep for a couple of hours and it just didn't happen. I just couldn't sleep.
Dude.
So, I'm knackered, man. But it's all good. What about you?
I've just gone 20 past 11, so yeah, crack on.
I'm trying to think where we were.
The 4 in the morning brain, that's it. I used to do that at uni. When I was at uni, doing design. Because I like always wanted my weekends. So I was like, I'm not doing any work over Saturday or Sunday. Like, that's my day, or Friday night, or whatever. So we used to pull all-nighters Tuesday and Thursdays, like with 2 of my friends. And it would get to about 3 or 4 in the morning, and you'd just be like, you feel like your eyes just go like, whoop, like spin around. You're like, all right, did that just happen? Like, and you're so tired, and you're smashing Red Bulls. And then we'd have to do like a presentation at like 10 in the morning.
Oh, man.
And like the food place wouldn't open till 8, and I remember just being like waiting for it, like so buzzed up off Red Bulls. And then, man, there's like, if there's one drug that gives me anxiety, it's caffeine. And it's for some reason, like, I just can't drink coffee. I'd be there like on so much Red Bull and then have a coffee in the morning and be like, oh my God, like when it's like a class full of people. So yeah, coffee kills me.
What's the longest you've ever gone without sleeping?
Oh man, I reckon last weekend probably didn't have a kip, but there's been tours where it's like, oh man, probably just one night, hey. I don't think... there's definitely been places where we just do all-nighters and then we'll jump on the plane or whatever, and then you're sort of like excited because you got to go and do the gig, and then you're forced to stay awake because you got to do it, and then you're doing sound check, and then you're back sort of to the adrenaline stage of doing the show, and then you're off again. So that happens pretty frequently, but I don't think I've ever done more than 2 nights. There was a guy, who was the guy from, is it The Doors? Some band. He just didn't sleep because he thought it was free drugs. So he'd be like up for 5 or 6 days.
Oh man, I did go almost 2 days without sleeping. I was like hallucinating by the end of it. I was like, I need to sleep because it fucks you.
It does fuck you, man. It's weird, isn't it? It's like, what is sleep as well? Because I've heard it's apparently like they're thinking obviously like it's cleaning the brain. And it makes no sense evolutionary, like why you should be like that big pile of meat. Yeah, it's inactive and defenseless for like fucking 8 hours. Yeah, but now that I suppose we are happy and we're cozy, like it's probably the best thing to do. Man, like coming back off that festival and getting into bed yesterday, I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna order Uber Eats and watch True Detective. I was like, fuck yes, this is so good. Do you like True Detective?
First series.
Yeah, first series, man. Oh, that thing.
Favorite TV show of all time, man.
It is. It's so... And I've only watched it once, and I was like, I'm going to watch that again. And McConaughey and Woody Harrelson together are the greatest duo. They're so sick. Have you seen the Between Two Ferns when Zach Galifianakis is interviewing Woody Harrelson? Matthew McConaughey. They're talking about...
I think so. Is that the one at the film?
I can't remember. It's like Between Two Ferns, and he's like, so what was your fucking weed budget on True Detective? And McConaughey's just pissing himself, and he's like, and how much of that budget did you smoke? Yeah, but you can tell they'll just be like having the best time filming that together as well.
It's so intense though. Like it must have been such a juxtaposition from being on the set where you're having the time of your life to go into having to try and film that, like when you know the cameras are rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is. It's hectic. There wasn't too much like dark TV series around that, because it was almost like TV at the time was just transitioning from like buying seasons to put on terrestrial television. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there'd be like
going into streaming.
Yeah, and then it was just as streaming sort of came out, and it was like one of the first things like, man, what the fuck is that? Like, HBO are killing it. They did another thing called The Night Of. Have you seen that?
I've wanted to watch that because it's got, is it Riz Ahmed's in it?
Yeah, dude, that's sick. Because that was on between the Game of Thrones seasons. They were like, oh, we got to keep people sort of hooked. So the
Still a wee miniseries.
Man, I loved it. I thought it was sick. It's really, it's pretty confusing. Yeah, it's good.
Can you ever get inspired by different art forms? Like, can you get inspired by like TV or, you know, books or films? Does that can you work it in?
Yeah, for sure. I think because it is still similar. Like, someone's obviously got themselves in some sort of mood. I've always loved Hunter S. Thompson, like reading like Gonzo or some shit, or like.
Oh man,
yeah,
I've got quite a few of his books over on the shelf.
Yeah, like Fear and Loathing, and you just like, fuck, man. And then you sort of like that kind of circus lifestyle. You almost hear a soundtrack playing, or I suppose I do, like, or through movies. I think it's just Looney Tunes. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just like chaos, and then you just like, all right, sweet, and sort of that kind of goes into music. So
there's a real fluidity to his writing as well, though. The way it kind of just goes from thing to thing and doesn't stop, and it's got such a momentum about it.
Yeah, it's sick. Yeah, he doesn't take a breath. His brain is just like spinning constantly. I love Joe Rogan reading his daily routine. Have you seen that? Dude, it's so good.
That's nuts, though. Like,
yeah, I
can't believe he made it to 70 after that.
Dude, I love when it gets to, it's like he's doing cocaine all day and it's like 4 a.m. Do cocaine seriously. It's like what? Yeah.
And then it's like 11 at night, drop acid, ready to write.
Yeah, ready to write. That's it. And then from like 3 o'clock, just watch copious amounts of porn until he like knocks himself out with like sleeping pills.
Living life to the max. That's like going everything at extremes.
Yeah. See, I suppose he's another one that would be a method writer.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. And I suppose actors get all the credit, but they're like motivated people. They'll be like, I'm going to basically utilize my life for art. And I think like it's like it is romantic when they're dead, but at the time I'm sure that all the hunters' friends are like, "Hey, you need to fucking slow down, son." Like, yeah. What did his mum think? It would be hard going around for Christmas dinner. Like, how you been, Hunter? It's like, I've been hanging around with the Hells Angels. It's, yeah.
Did you feel like that? You know, you're saying there about someone wanting to completely kind of give their life to art. Did you feel like that with music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, you always feel like an idiot for saying it, but you just like. There'd be a time when I was recording the first couple, I'd be like, this is it, take me, like, I'm going to just go full rabbit hole and dive into it, and then, I mean, still, there'd be like, one day I want someone just to find me in like a den with like a fucking, I don't know, one of those water containers filled with acid, just sipping it, just like, and then just coming up with music, be like, oh god, we found him, he's here, like, and then be like, I've done it, here's all my records.
Just distilling acid into music.
Yeah, I think you need, like, life experiences and a full round spectrum to be sort of like not normal, but at least feel like you're getting your tickets worth, like, for life. Like, I mean, there's definitely things I've wanted to do, and now I'm sort of like got to the point where it's like music. It's like, how much music do you have to make and create until you're happy with what you've released? Like, I always feel like I think I'll keep writing until the point I'm like, I can't do any better. But at the moment, I'm like, every time I finish a record, I'm like, it's going to be the best thing that I've ever, like, can do physically. And, like, I want it to be the best thing I've listened to. And then, sort of, when I finish it, I'm like, nah, I can fucking do better. So that's what sort of my motivation that keeps me pushing. But I'm sure there's people, like Orson Welles, like, his first film was, like, one of the best films ever made, like Citizen Kane. And then
never going to top it.
Yeah, exactly. So he just became, like, this guy who's just, like, sort of, hit out. That would be harder. If you sort of were known as like this prodigy, or he set the bar himself, so he was only going to be able to beat himself, so maybe he gave up.
He made some great films though, like when you look at the kind of stuff he did throughout the 50s and 60s, and even, you ever seen F for Fake? Came out like in 75 or 70 or something. It's on YouTube, I think, or it used to be. It's like this documentary about like trickery, and it's so well done. It's a perfect film. I'd recommend checking it out.
I'll definitely watch that. I'll watch that tonight. Yeah, I think him though, like, I suppose it was just media that did him. I really liked his that documentary that came out about him. What was the Orson Welles one? It's on Netflix. About that movie he never finished.
Yeah. And then they finished the movie and put that out as well.
Yeah, that's right. Because then he had like 4 leading actresses that he was all dating all 4 and then would recast the movie because he'd break up with his girlfriend.
Nuts, yeah.
So, yeah, like, oh man, so ridiculous. I loved how him and Winston Churchill were good friends, weren't they?
I never knew that.
Yeah, apparently they used to hang out and like sort of towards the end of their lives together, and they'd just go and get like stupidly drunk in some like Mediterranean island.
Living life.
That's sick. It's so nice that like 2 great people were like hanging out at some time.
I wonder what they spoke about. How does that conversation go down?
They're almost similar though, aren't they? I'd say
Both
like
cigars.
Yeah, that's it. Both big boys who like cigars, who've sort of already done their great work and now like calming down in their older years, but by stepping it up. I don't think they played golf. I don't think Winston Churchill was a good golf fan, was he?
Nah, I don't.
Was he? He had that quote, it's like, golf is a good way to spoil a good walk.
What you're saying there, though, about them kind of having both made their best work, what motivates you to make music change? Now that you've kind of put out a few bodies of work that you're really proud of, does that affect how you kind of progress moving forward?
I suppose you never want to try and emulate what you've done too much. Like, I really liked High Visceral, so I was like, High Visceral 2 kind of just seemed like instinctively like, I'll keep in that same vein. So, and then obviously Whatchamacallit was different to those 2, and now the 4th one's different. I think just trying to always keep going until you've always got run out of ideas, I suppose, about sounds. The good thing about it is if eventually you get to a stage where like, I don't have any ideas, and you'd be like, oh, let's do a High Visceral Part 3, and then like keep going that way. Like, there was also, I wanted to do like a Whatchamacallit Part 2 and just call every album like the same. So if they're themed differently enough, it would be like, and people really like that, you're like, sweet, let's just go back in and do another record. So I know Gizzard doing like another microtonal record for the next one they're releasing. So because everyone really enjoyed that. So do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a good way of being able to stick with your fan base as well. I don't know, just keeping that train of thought like going along. Like, because imagine if you were like, you went to like Jean Villeneuve or John Villeneuve or whatever. If you were like, mate, I want to see more Blade Runner. He's like, sweet, I want to see it too. We're going to make Blade Runner 2. It's like, yeah. Like, because I know the world is crying out for like Ewan McGregor to do like an Obi-Wan Kenobi film, which would just be sick.
He's doing a TV show, isn't he?
Is that what it is? It's being a TV show?
I think he's been announced, yeah. They're doing like an 8 episode run or something.
That's been like a Reddit thing for years, hasn't it? It's been like, we just want to see Obi-Wan. But I think that was the reason as well I called High Visceral Part 1, because I love George Lucas's like ambition to be like, yeah, the first one's actually like, it's Part 4, like the first film. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's genius. And then so I don't even think he knew that he was gonna be like, you can't just release a movie and be like, yeah, well, it's gonna be this one's gonna be a trilogy, and then we're also gonna do another trilogy before. It's like, you almost have to wait and see how it goes. So yeah, ambitious is the only words to really describe that. But fuck, man, it's like built an empire in one film.
I know.
It's great.
Changed cinema forever.
Yeah, it has. I thought there was a couple of things as well about, you got Rotten Tomato and IMDb ratings or whatever, but the way that box office grossing is probably the highest way of looking at a film. I think the last one just released was the highest of all Star Wars movies. Or maybe it was the first one of the part of this trilogy.
Yeah, I think it was the first one.
First one, yeah. But I think everyone wants to see that. Do you know what I mean? They wait another 10 years and they'll be like, everyone's going to be like, sweet, I can't wait to watch another Star Wars. It's like, they can just keep pummeling them out. Still think Rogue One was the best. That's my favourite Star Wars.
Yeah, I like the way it looked.
I thought it was sick. I thought it was good.
Good ending.
Yeah, I enjoy. Man, the ending was sick. Like, that's all the movie needs. And then you just go straight instantly, like, I'm gonna watch A New Hope, like, right now. Like, because that's all I'm gonna do. Just put it on the movies. I'm staying. Just go. Yeah.
You know, you're speaking about box office as well. How do you judge success for your own music? What are you kind of measuring that off of?
Oh, that's a weird one, hey. You never feel... I suppose back in... when you first started, you'd be like, even just having music on Spotify is a form of success. Like, that to us, when we're like, yeah, we're a real band now, like, our music's on Spotify. Just to even play a gig on a Saturday night, like, we were always a weekday band, and then we eventually got to do a gig on a Saturday, so that felt like a step up. And I think the idea of success is always pushing forward. Do you know what I mean? You're always looking at the next step. So I suppose now it'd be really nice to... Vinyl, I think, is the ultimate feeling of success. Even if fucking no one buys a record, you're like, but you got pressed a record and you have it at home, and you're just like, all right, I did something. I did something I could show people. Like, it's physical. It looks like it's its final form of the way that I think music should be. So it's like, just to have a record that's supposed to go down well in like the vinyl community, that would probably be the best form of success, I think. If you just spoke to someone like about other records and they're like, oh yeah, like, I've heard that record, like, or I have it in their collection, and just be like, what? Like, that would be really cool.